It's just me. I don't have any friends. Hey everybody, it's me, Basic Dave, or David. Yeah, probably. You just call me Basic Dave. It's fine. It's fine because I'm basically Dave, right? Anyway, thanks for listening. Today we're going to talk about common sense isn't common. We're going to talk about tech issues and problem-solving skills that a lot of people are facing when it comes to technology, and how even though you're born in the age of technology does not mean that you're qualified to use it. And it kind of goes along with some of the pet peeves that we talked about in the previous in the previous conversation. Y'all bear with me, please. My brain is not there. But we're going to get through this today. I'm a little bit nasally and all of these things, but we're going to get through this together. Okay, so if you guys don't know that I'm on X, well, formerly known Twitter, follow me. I'm on there at IAmBasicDave. And just so you guys know, retweets do not mean endorsements. So let's get started. All right. For you guys who do not know, I tend to talk about random things, right? The last couple episodes we've been talking about common sense is not common. And we've listed issues from pet peeves to, I don't even know, just a lot of things. We covered a lot of things. But I would like to talk about tech issues. Now, for those of you who know, I own World Media House, and we own different websites and different podcasts, things like that, vlogs, everything. We do all of it. We have different outlets. And people automatically assume, without me giving them any type of permission, I guess you would say, they assume that I know technology. And that is not the case. I am probably the furthest person from technology. And I actually like it. I don't know if you guys can agree with me or not, but have you ever turned your phone off for the whole day and walked away from it and just said, you know what, I'm going to enjoy the day. I'm going to do me, right? Probably not, because you're using your phone or your computer right now to listen to this, So don't do it today. Do it tomorrow, But there's a sense of reward, like a rewarding feeling when you're like, you know what, I'm going to just detox myself for a little bit from technology and just do me, right? Well, when you're around it 24/7, having that step away from technology is like a breath of fresh air, because you can disconnect. You can limit the amount of information you get. I mean, because things are just pouring in all over the place. There's issues with fake news, and there's issues with mis and disinformation and all these different things. It's just too much, specifically during the time of political elections and things like that. It's just too much. So I urge you guys to detox once in a while, to take a step back and just kind of regroup. But for those of you who are like me, who don't really use technology all like that, and even though you grew up in the time of technology, I want to discuss a few things. So some tech issues and potentially ways to solve those tech issues, some problem-solving skills to help you solve these tech issues. First, I want to go over two main problems of using technology, typical issues that adults face. One of those problems is understanding how it works. Now, if you guys are like me, you're probably like, I could always read the directions, but who has time for that when I could just YouTube it, right? Okay, the other day, and maybe this is just my mind being like a man, but I bought an electric lawnmower. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but I bought one the other day, and I read the instructions, but they were more of a distraction for me. So I just threw them to the side and pulled up YouTube, right? I spent hours watching YouTube videos and dissecting and intersecting and all these things and cross-pollinating everything that they said. But I did not think to just say, you know what, these instructions are here. Let me just go read the instructions. But I would spend hours watching some man try to put together this thing. And I mean, after 2 hours, I figured out how to cut my grass. So, you know, that was interesting. Poor choices, poor time management, but I did it. Anyway, the second main issue that, you know, adults tend to have with using technology is overwhelming information. Now, quite frankly, I feel like we need, how do I say this? I feel like there's a lot more distractions when it comes to like detailed information that just is kind of unnecessary. I prefer to get the fluff out the way and just get the meat and potatoes. But I guess there could be a time when you need to be overwhelmed with information for like safety purposes and things like that. And then like I could, as a business owner, I can also understand why companies do push too much information so that way they can reduce their legal issues long term. Because like they know, like for example, pharmaceutical companies know that their medicines could give you STDs, even though it says that it's supposed to fight against STDs. You wind up having STDs, and then they keep continue. Well, that's a whole nother story. But what I'm trying to say is they have to give you information so that way it reduces their overall legal issues down the line. So they can't say that you didn't know. But there is a time when adults tend to get information overload, and it's just like, just tell me what to do. Turn this knob. Okay, I turn the knob. You know, instead of saying, well, this is what you have to do. You have to open the package, and you have to place this to the floor, and then peel this down at a 65-degree angle, and all these things. It's just too much. Just get to the point. Get to the point. So yeah, I think that is an issue that most people have. Those two main issues. Understanding how things work, and then being slammed with too much information, information overload, as they say. But there was a research study done by the Pew Research Institute that talks about how technology causes more problems than it solves. There's a well-known theoretical physicist. His name is Yakov J. Steen, Stein. He said the problem is that we are becoming more and more dependent on machines, and hence more susceptible to bugs and systems failures. That's concerning. I mean, because we could go down that rabbit hole and talk about how is it that the companies that we look at in America, specifically in America, like the credit bureaus, they're supposed to be untouchable, right? Or the Pentagon, they're supposed to be untouchable, but yet they get hacked. I mean, how is it that you can see people that are supposed to be untouchable get breached? Data failures left and right. I mean, it makes you wonder how secure is a computer, you know? I've heard horror stories. I don't know how true they are, but I've heard horror stories of people who are saying that the CIA and FBI's there were data breaches in their systems by 10 and 12-year-olds, or people from overseas that have like this Matchbox computer that they build out of leaves and twigs, and now all of a sudden they're being hacked. Like, what in the world? Like, is this possible? And if someone could break into, what was it, Equifax, if I'm not mistaken, a few years back, if they could break into Equifax and get all of our information, I mean, your bank account, well, that's a whole other story. I'm just going to leave it alone. Your bank account should, well, I don't want to cause mass panic, so I'll just leave it alone. But yes, I can see that the technological advancements are causing more problems than they're actually solving. And then that's another fear that we have to deal with. I wouldn't say it's a, what is that called, where you like a something theory. What is it called? Oh crap, my brain is falling apart. Something theory, like oh my gosh. Yes, God, there it is. There it is. Conspiracy theory. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy theory because these things are actually happening. Oh, and then let me spiral out of it. You know how I do, you guys. I always spiral to the left. Well, let me go down this street. Now, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine about reparations. Not because of anybody's skin tone, but we were just having a discussion about reparations. Now, the thing that interests me was my friend was saying, like, oh, you know, African Americans need to get reparations because of their skin, you know, their history and how they were mistreated and all of these things and all of this stuff. And I said, well, you know, that's one way of looking at it. And I said, but let's flip it to the other side. What about the people who, let's just say Americans, right? Let's say the Americans, whether they were white, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter, Asian, the people who were just like they were saying that aliens were real, right? And these people lost their families, their mass divorces. There were people who the kids were like, oh my God, my dad's crazy. You know, there were broken homes, potential physical abuse because the dad or mom is like, I saw an alien, I was abducted. And then the wife or the spouse is like, oh, you're crazy. And then they get hit, and then drug addicts, and all of these horrible things happen because people were saying that they had interactions with aliens, right? And the government was like, no, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. People were put on medications, put in insane asylums. People committed suicides and or homicides, all of these things, right? And then next thing you know, like last year, 2023, or was it 2024? I forget. But the government's like, just so you know, the aliens are real. And we're going to move over here to talk about COVID, right? And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, I was so upset when I heard these things. Homes were destroyed. People's lives were in shambles. Yes, I get, you know, slavery was a horrible thing. I do. But outside of that, what about the people who have been lied to by the government for years and forced to be put on these medications and put in these insane asylums, all of these things just to make everyone else feel like they were the crazy ones? I mean, imagine when you go to your like get-togethers and your family during Thanksgiving and everyone's like, oh, here comes crazy Uncle Jim. You know, he's going to talk about being raped by aliens again. And it's like, but now that the government says, the American government says, yeah, just, you know, aliens are real. And then we're going to go over here and pivot over here. It's like, do you look at crazy Uncle Jim differently? Was he actually touched? Did he get infiltrated? Did his body get penetrated by aliens? Was he fondled by aliens? These are questions now that I want to know more information about, because like the homes and the years and the memories, you don't get those things back. So yes, you know, one point of view is you don't get your, you know, your years back of slavery and all those things. I get all of that, you know, and I'm not saying that that's a problem. What I'm saying is, if you start going down the rabbit hole of reparations, then everyone is going to need reparations of some sort. So, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But let me get back on track, y'all, because you know how I get. So, yes, the research study by Pew said that technology is causing more problems than it solves. I think that Yakov was correct when he stated that we're becoming more independent on machines. For example, have you noticed that when you go to Walmart, I'm sure you know what Walmart is, but have you noticed when you go to Walmart that there's maybe 2 people working on register and then you have to check your own self out? Have you noticed that what you're doing is you're working for Walmart? You're parking your car. You're taking time out of your day to be there, so you're not getting paid to be there. Then you're going and walking around and picking up items that, I mean, some people could be picking up. Those are jobs, right? Someone could be picking up your stuff and putting it in a cart and bringing it to you. That could be jobs, right? But yet You're going and picking up the items. You're going and scanning out your own items. You're the one bagging your items, and yet you're paying them. And it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. I'm paying them to do their job. And yet they have all these people walking around here doing what? But Walmart was one of the people during COVID talking about, we're going to increase our minimum wage, but they're not hiring anybody. What are you? Okay. Whew. That's a whole nother story. And then, if I'm not mistaken, there was like a lady who was trying to do the self-checkout lines, and she actually had the police called, and she won this huge lawsuit. I'll look it up, and then after this short break, I'll give you some more information on that. But yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna look it up, and I'll be right back. Okay, y'all. I found the information I was talking about. So there was a report in 2022. My friends at the U.S. Sun, so the USSun.com, reported that a scanning error took place at Walmart, where a woman was able to sue Walmart and won $2.1 million after the cops charged her with theft over self-checkout errors. So the interesting thing was, if this technology was not forced upon her to check her own self out and the glitch didn't happen, she wouldn't have been put in this situation. Now, granted, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to try to throw myself in Walmart to try this out so I can get some extra money. And I encourage you not to do that either. But if you have to, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But what I'm trying to say is these individuals, meaning people, you and I, each and every day, are being forced to embrace technology. And technology is not... It just seems to be, there seems to just be more problems. Now, I remember a time back in the day where we used to, instead of text each other, we would go and actually, we would write notes, like pen to paper or pencil to paper. Remember the joys of sharpening a pencil? It was like you just stood there and you're just, you're at your teacher's desk and just grinding the pencil. And it's like, yeah, I'm grinding my pencil. And then the shavings would be on the floor. You'd sneeze and there'd be a whole bunch of stuff. And just such a happier time. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I miss those days. But, writing a letter was so, it was secretive. It's like, do you like me? Circle yes or no. Or I can't stand Ben because he's, talking to Allison and all the. It's just, there's so much you could do with just writing a note. You didn't think about anything. Like, the whole world didn't see it. And, it just felt more comfortable, in my opinion. But, now everybody wants to text and screenshot and do all these things, voice to text. Oh, and that gets you in trouble, too. Like, now we're friends after I had to clarify a few things. But there was this guy who I met. We were talking, and, I just met him, right? And then I voice text him saying, we'll get together later. I'll see you. I said, we'll get together soon. I'll see you later. Bye. And and I hit send without looking, and it said something about, I'll see you later. I love you. Bye. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, you can't take that away because at that time, I don't think the Apple allowed you to edit your text messages. So I was kind of stuck with that. Long story short, things were not as pleasant between he and I for a while until I had to explain to him, like, hey, why didn't you respond back? And he's like, bro, because you're trying to sit up here and do all these gay things with me. And I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on, what are you talking about? So he showed me the text message, and I was like, I am so sorry. That was not supposed to be the text. So I tried to explain to him I was voice texting, I was driving. I shouldn't have done that, but, it is what it is. So we're cool now, he understands, and we're good. But yeah, voice text, that's no joke, man. That's no joke. But anyway, let's move on. So we were talking about how we're being thrown into this world of technology, and it can be overwhelming at times. So Did you know that when you go to school, like when you go to college and you're learning a new system, by the time you graduate, let's just say 4 years, what you've learned has become obsolete? So now you're dealing with poor and outdated knowledge of quote unquote information that's supposed to help you grow and become well-rounded in today's workforce. Well, in the workforce, digital technology is reshaping businesses and the skills required to compete for jobs. There's this professor at Harvard, James McKins. He used to work at Microsoft, but he said technology will obviously result in civic innovation. What does that mean? Civic innovation. I don't know. I'll have to look that up later. But it says the real question is whether the innovation will result in better societal outcomes. For example, the gig economy is enabled by technology. Technology finds buyers for workers and their services. However, given the choice between an economy with many gig workers and an economy with an equivalent number of traditional middle-class jobs, I think that most people would prefer the latter. Now, I don't know if you are aware of what he's saying, but this guy who is obviously qualified to teach at Harvard and who used to work at Microsoft is very aware of what's coming down the pipeline. Okay, these people are not hiring Joe off the bus who has no experience on anything. These people know. In fact, it's a little short story about Microsoft. I used to live in Seattle, and that town, well, that's a whole other story. There's a lot of, I don't do well with passive aggressiveness. I think we've talked about that before, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, you have to be equipped with some sort of knowledge to work for Microsoft. I mean, the interview process is daunting from what I've been told. And obviously Harvard University isn't just, like I said, hiring people off the bus. So for him to know that the gig economy is not a stable economy, I would definitely take that to heart. I mean, and plus, if you think about it, raise your hand if you've ever driven like Uber or Lyft or done DoorDash or I don't know what the other ones are called. What's that one with the carrot? I forget. Y'all know. Comment below if you know what the name is with that company with that carrot. Something with I think it's like something with a cart or mart or something like that. But y'all just comment below and let me know. But these jobs, if you think about it, you're spending hours out of your day to maybe make a couple $100. You're spending gallons and gallons of gas just to do what? To help run somebody to the store or pick someone up from the airport. And then barely get change or tips or anything like that, you know. And so these ideas of being busy aren't sustainable when you are educated in your craft and you're able to add long-term value and with, you know, introducing products and services to the market. I mean, that is sustainable. Now, I'm not just saying that because, you know, I'm a business owner, but I'm just saying that because if you just use common sense, you would realize, like Ford, for example, they made cars. People need to buy cars because everything is so far away. So instead of riding a horse, which I don't think they have, well, I mean, it would probably be better to ride a horse, but what do you plug the horse into to, like, charge it? Nothing. So it's eco-friendly. So there's benefits. That's a good conversation we should have for another day. The benefits of old school versus new school. That's a good idea. Comment below if you guys want me to talk about that. I think that's going to be a good topic, but I want to hear your thoughts. So anyway, but yeah, so I will say that there's issues when it comes to integrating technology into our daily lives. Like there's a lot of students now who are getting caught up with term papers being written by AI, what's it called, ChatGPT, and other outlets that similar. These these term papers are being turned into these professors, and they're like, wait, what the heck? You guys didn't write this. And then there's software to find out what's been written by an AI component. So now when you think you're really able to cram in this quick little paper, now there's technologies to get you caught up. So you're going to be in trouble either way. Just utilizing your own brain power is key. And if I'm not mistaken, AI is really just scouring the web for information and then packaging it and presenting it to you. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not a tech guy. I've already admitted that. But I mean, it's scouring the web for information that people have already placed on it. So it can't do much more than repeat or rebuttal back to you information that's already been input by humans. So if it's going to basically copy and paste what other people are saying and present that as fact, why don't you just use your own brain? I don't know. But anyway, so my friends at connect.comptia.org, that's connect.comptia.org, talk about generative AI becoming widespread. So, for example, ChatGPT, for those of you who don't know, ChatGPT is a chat box that uses artificial intelligence to generate human-like text based on prompts from users. So, for example, like if you said, hey, just so you know, I want to look up or get data for how many people like eating chips, then ChatGPT would say, okay, based off of the consumer report, chip sales for this amount of time have increased or decreased in these areas, and kind of create like this overall generalization for information based off of what you're talking about, which can be very useful, but it should not be the all and end all. Because again, if it's scouring the web to get information, it's going to go off of information that's been provided by humans. So sometimes it might get information that is one-sided versus neutral, and that can become an issue. For example, like I was saying, the generative AI becoming widespread, specifically ChatGPT, it was given to the world, right, at no cost. So anyone can use it. And it can do many things that are basically replacing the need for human activities, right? So, for example, ChatGPT can write your resume. I know, right? It's sick. Based off of what you put in there. Like if you said, hey, I want you to write a resume that highlights my business skills that include blank, blank, blank. It can do that. It can answer customer queries. It can create a lesson plan. It can develop codes for making things like, websites and stuff. So if you say, I want to create a code to be embedded in this website, it could do all of that. And that's taking away human jobs, or just the human thought process. So problem-solving skills are becoming less and less developed. So, this topic is just so intense. I could go on and on, but I don't want to. If you guys are interested in this podcast, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and dedication to it. I know my life is far from basic, but these are some of the things that I think about. These are just some of the topics that come to my mind, and trust and believe there's so much more coming down the pipeline. But to stay up to date and to stay informed, follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at IAmBasicDave. And let me know your thoughts. I really want to know so I can improve. I feel like we need to all improve in areas of our lives. And if there are things that you want to know more about, if you want me to do research studies or dig deeper or give my opinion on certain things, please let me know. All right. I'll talk with you later. Bye. It's just me. I don't have any friends.